Finding good EDC gear on a budget can be really tough sometimes. It's one of my most requested topics. That is exactly what we've got today. I've got 10 EDC items here, all under $50. Got some old classics and some new favorites. So without any further ado, let's get into it. First up on the list is the Milwaukee Fastback. I've been getting more and more into utility blades lately, and this one is constantly being recommended to me, so I picked one up. They have quite a few different options with models and variants. This is the compact folding utility knife. Basically a blend of a utility blade and a traditional folding pocket knife. It's just about 4 inches when it's closed and 6 1/4 when it's open. You have a button lock mechanism here. This is designed to be able to flip open one-handed. I will say it works, but it's not the smoothest operation to be able to do it, and it doesn't always lock properly into place, so you do want to check if you're flipping it open that way. I'm not sure what the body's made out of, but it almost has like a soft touch sort of feel. I assume it's just some sort of plastic. Other than the slightly wonky one-handed closing and opening of this, my only real complaint is the fact that the blade length is not adjustable. I got really used to my sliding mechanism on the Gerber pry grid, and I like being able to have just a little bit of the knife poking out so I can open up boxes and not worry about cutting the inside contents. Kind of boils down to a personal preference type of thing, but overall, pretty impressed. You have a pocket clip on here as well, which is nice. For $14, this is definitely solid. I can see why so many people like it, and the design and aesthetics with the Milwaukee logo, definitely a huge plus as well. Next up, we have the North Face Explorer Hip Pack. I'm always on the hunt for budget sling bags. I'm a big sling bag guy. I know not everyone is. The kind of standard default, for me at least, and seemingly a lot of you, if you're on a budget, the TomTok sling bags. I've talked about those in the past. I try not to do any repeats with these lists, but that one's definitely a good option if you're on a budget. I stumbled on this a couple weeks ago. I've been testing it out and using it, and it's honestly pretty good, especially considering it's only $30. Very simple and straightforward layout and design here. It's 3 liters of capacity. On their website, they quote that it uses a 300D and 600D recycled poly fabric. I assume the 300D is the bulk of the body here because it's a bit thinner, and then maybe it's 600D on these accent type of edges. It's DWR coated, which is a really nice touch at this price point, although you don't get any sort of water resistance with these zippers. So kind of tread lightly with that. You know, I'd imagine some light splashing or rain is going to be fine, but you're not going to get like a fully waterproof option here like you would at some of the higher price point ones. On the interior, it's mostly just one big cavern and cavity. You have the main body here. You have one sort of flat pocket on the outside, as well as a little key clip. But that is it. Very simple, very straightforward. They had a few different colorways available that all look pretty good. I went with this tan brown khaki combo here. I think it looks great and definitely matches my mostly earth-toned wardrobe lately. For $30, I don't think you're going to be having any complaints with this. If you want something a little more technical but not necessarily as stylish, I think TomTok is another really good way to go. But honestly, for looks alone, I'd probably go with this over that. But for features alone, I would definitely go with the TomTok. Next up is an old favorite of mine. This is the Herschel Charlie wallet. I have talked about this in the past, but it's been a couple of years and it hasn't been in this under 50 list series I've been doing lately. But this thing comes in at $9 right now. I think you'd be hard pressed to find anything anywhere near the quality of this wallet under $10. They have quite a few different colorways available. Most of them are going to be at the full $25 price point though. This one is the black crosshatch. It's made with a 600D fabric they call Ecosystem. It's made from recycled water bottles, so I assume it's like an rPET fabric, but just their branding over it. You have 2 card slots on each side and then one larger center slot for cash or more cards if you want. I think you could easily hold, 5 or 6 cards in here with a bit of cash without any problems. Definitely more than enough for my needs. The stitching and everything looks really good. It's RFID blocking. Overall, no complaints. Herschel's been making pretty good stuff for a long time, so it's nice to kind of revisit some of these brands. $9, again, I don't think you're going to find anything better than this out there right now. Really quick, I want to give a huge thank you to Anker for sponsoring this week's video and introduce you to our next item, the all-new Anker 3-in-1 power bank. You all know I'm a huge fan of multi-purpose items. This is a portable battery, a wall charger, and a charging cable all built into one. Going over some of the basic specs really quick, the built-in battery has 10,000 milliamp hours of capacity. You have up to 30 watts for fast charging. It'll take an iPhone 15 Pro from 0 to 100% in 95 minutes. And I had mentioned the built-in USB USB-C cable, but you also have an additional USB-C port underneath, so you have the ability to charge multiple devices at once. You also have the built-in folding wall plug. It'll fully recharge the built-in battery in around 2 hours. And something else I've really grown to love in a lot of these newer Anker products, you have a built-in battery that'll show the battery percentage, whether you're charging your devices or charging the unit itself. Even if this were just a battery without any of the extra features, the form factor is pretty tiny for what you get with the capacity. Super easy to throw into a sling bag or backpack or even in your pocket if you need. And then with the charging cable here, they've designed it to kind of be a built-in lanyard or like wrist strap so you can have it on the go. Charge up your devices while you're moving. Definitely super convenient to be able to bring it around with you. You all know I love my MagSafe batteries, but with something like this, you do get a little bit more versatility. You know, first and foremost, being able to charge multiple devices at once. And second, you know, if you want to charge something that isn't an iPhone, you have a ton of extra options here. So you can top off whatever it is that you're bringing with you, and you can top off multiple devices at once. I think the obvious use case here is being able to charge your phone and headphones simultaneously, but also if you have an Android phone or any other USB-C phone. With everything they've done here, they could have very easily just put 2 USB-C ports on the side and called it a day. I do really like the addition of the built-in cable. It's just kind of nice that it's always there and with you. It's one less thing to worry about if you're running out the door and want to throw this into your bag really quick. I also really like the fact that you're able to do pass-through charging with a device like this. It's always a huge plus with any batteries I use, whether your time is limited, if you're running into a coffee shop really quick or something, or if wall plug space is limited. You know, maybe you're at an airport and the outlets are few and far between. You know, being able to charge up both the battery and 2 of your devices all at once is really excellent. Alternatively to the 10,000 milliamp hour version here, if you don't necessarily need all of this capacity, they do actually make a 5,000 milliamp hour version as well. This has a very similar design and almost the same feature set, but you get 5,000 milliamp hours instead of 10,000. And the only other real difference aside from that is the max output in the power bank mode is 22.5 watts compared to 30. You still get the full 30 watts in the wall charging mode, but just a little bit less output when you're using it as a power bank. Otherwise though, exactly the same, and this thing is even tinier. It's crazy to think, you know, a couple of years ago, this thing isn't that much bigger than the old, you know, Apple 18-watt chargers. It's not much bigger than that, and you get a built-in battery and a built-in cable and a ton of stuff. You know, it's just crazy how small and convenient these have gotten. Both of the 3-in-1s have been really great so far in my testing. You know, Anker's always been known for their dependability with this sort of stuff. You know, I've personally been a customer of Anker for probably 15 years now. I've never had any issues with any of their products. They've always worked exactly as intended. You know, I have some really old power banks that are still going strong, believe it or not. These were such a unique design and style, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to check them out a little bit closer. Be sure to check the links in the description down below if you want to learn more for yourself or pick one up for yourself. Huge thanks again to Anker for sponsoring this week's video. While we're on the topic of tech, our next item up are the HyperFoam ear tips from Keybudz. Keybudz recently reached out and asked if I wanted to try these. They're brand new out, apparently. I was very interested because I love foam ear tips, and I'm always on the hunt to see if there's something better out there compared to what I'm using. It's kind of the whole point of this YouTube channel, if I'm being honest. So I've been using these for a few days. Most of my comparisons are going to be compared to other foam ear tips from Comply, mainly. I have a lot of trouble with fit with my AirPods Pro with the silicone tips that they come with. The foam ear tips, I think, just fit a lot better. They mold into your ears a little bit better, and they're a little bit more comfortable, and they potentially sound a little bit better as well. I wasn't sure if I'd notice any difference between these and the Comply foam ear tips I've been using for so long, but initial impressions after a few days of using them, I do think there is just a smidge more clarity coming out from the sound, particularly in the bass. It's so difficult and probably subjective to judge, and I'm definitely not like a crazy audiophile type of person. I recognize really good sound, but I'm definitely not nearly, you know, at the level of some of the audiophile folks on YouTube. Maybe this will change down the road, but as of now, they only have the small, medium, and large 3-packs available to buy. It's really great when you're starting off to be able to buy those to determine which size fits best, but down the road, after you determine your size, being able to buy a 3-pack of the one size that you need compared to wasting 2 out of the 3 in the set is a bit of a bummer. Hopefully that's something that they update down the road. I know these are brand new, so that could be subject to change. I'm not entirely sure. The foam that they're using for these is definitely a different feel and texture compared to Comply. This has a little bit of a firmer type of feel and texture, and definitely has a lot more squish to it, if that makes sense. I think it's going to mold potentially a little bit better. They say it's heat activated compared to the other Comply foam tips. I don't think are. They also have a patent apparently on this sound tube that runs through the middle. It's supposed to help improve the sound quality. Maybe that is what I'm hearing in the differences. Not really sure. Overall, my impressions are very good with these. I'm very curious to see how they last over time. You know, my Comply foam tips tend to wear out after like 2 or 3 months. So if I can get a little bit more longevity out of these, I'll gladly pay an extra few dollars. On top of that, of the benefit of, you know, a little bit of an improvement in the sound quality. I just really hope that they update their sizing offerings down the road. So we'll see how that goes. And I'll definitely be reporting back on these for my summer everyday carry update. You know, a couple months will have gone by then. I can see how these are holding up, if they're outlasting the Comply tips. But I can definitely recommend all of you to get foam ear tips, whether it's these or Comply. Huge improvement in the comfort and a little bit of an improvement in the sound quality as well. You should all know me well enough by now. I can't let a budget EDC video go by without talking about my one and only love, Casio. This is the AE1200W-1A. I've been loving my fancier watches lately, but could never turn my back on Casio. Definitely the best value out there in watches if you're looking to add some style and functionality on a tight budget. The 168 is definitely one of my favorites in the collection, and I think comes out to less than $30 right now. Price is always going to vary a bit. I think it was like 18 or 19 when I first picked it up. Such an iconic retro type of style here with the watch face. You have little pops of blue and red. You have all the good functions of a digital watch with, you know, alarm, stopwatch, calendar, time, obviously. Nice and accurate. I think it's plus or minus 30 seconds for a month, which is better than a lot of fancy mechanical watches. And if you haven't seen on the watch face already, you have electroluminescence with this one. So you have a really good backlight, which isn't the case with all of the Casios, but this one definitely has one of the nicer backlights with the module that they're using. The A168 is definitely in my top 5 for favorite Casios, but there are a ton of other options under $50. I think last time we talked about the Casio Royale, you know, the world time watch that comes in around $20. If you want to bump right up to the top of that $50 limit, the classic G-Shock Square, I think it's the 5600, comes in right about $50 usually. I also wore another one of my favorites that comes in at $40. This is the Casio AQ800. It's an Digi watch with, you know, some really cool, you know, businessy retro 80s type of style. Tons of great options though, but this is a real keeper if you're looking to stay in a really tight budget. Got sunglasses up next. These are from a brand I found on Amazon called Sojos. So I don't know if it's just some random, you know, white label brand, but I was really impressed with these. I was determined to find something similar to my new Mission Workshop Article 1 sunglasses that I got. I found these. It's a very similar shape, but these come in at $12. And they are honestly so impressive for $12. I think these are my new favorites for anything under $20. You know, I have a lot of great budget sunglasses like in a $30 to $50 range that I'm a big fan of, but I tend to struggle with that under $20 price point. These are the first ones I found where the build quality actually feels decent enough, and style-wise, I think they're great. One potential caveat, if you're just a little too cool and too macho, they tend to market these towards women and not men. Nothing feminine about the design here though, so I'm not sure why that's the case. I think they look great. Build quality is decent. You get a little carrying pouch with it. $12, you absolutely can't go wrong. Got another classic up next. This is the Victorinox Super Tinker Swiss Army knife. A while back, I asked you all what your favorite piece of EDC gear was, and hands down, the most common was something from Victorinox. They have so many different models, and I haven't tried anything before this other than my Victorinox Mini SD. Little tiny one. I like to keep it in my backpacking kit just because the functionality versus the weight is perfect if you're an ultralighter when you're out on the trail. But I've known they had so many other options, and I haven't had a more substantial Victorinox like this since I was a little kid, so I wanted to get one, check it out, see what I was missing out on. It's 91 millimeters long, so right around 3.6 inches. That's kind of in their medium-sized category. It comes in at 3 ounces for the weight. Going over the tools, you have one large blade here, one smaller blade over here. You have a can opener with a built-in small flathead screwdriver screwdriver. On the other side, you have a bottle opener with a larger flathead screwdriver. And then you have a shockingly large pair of scissors. Flipping over to the other side, you have a Phillips head screwdriver. You have this little hook tool. I actually had to look up what this was. I'd love to hear if you have one of these. What is your use case for the hook tool? Do you actually use it? I saw people using it to like carry groceries and all sorts of crazy stuff like that. And lastly, on this side, you have this little reamer sewing needle type of tool. And then always with the Victorinox, on one side you have a pair of tweezers and the other side you have a toothpick. I definitely plan to swap this out to put a little ferro rod in here like I did with my mini SD. I really love this medium size. I think it's a great form factor for portability. You know, classic design, of course, with the Victorinox Swiss Army knife. They have a lifetime warranty as well, which is always a great touch. Thank you all again for getting me to check this out. I probably never would have if it wasn't for all of your praise in that one video a couple months back. Definitely a good one to have in the rotation as a separate, addition to my Leatherman Wave Plus. I did have one other multi-tool I wanted to talk about that was pretty minimal, but with a really great tool set. This is the Gerber Armbar Trade. I know Gerber gets a bit of flack sometimes. I've actually had some trouble with some of their pocket knives in the past, but I've always really liked most of their multi-tools and utility blades and that sort of thing. This is definitely no exception. I've been really liking this. I actually got it last year, so I've had quite a bit of time with it to test and check it out. It's extremely small and lightweight, closed up. It's 3.6 inches in length. It weighs 87 grams, so just a little bit over 3 ounces. As far as the tool set goes, you have one main blade that's 2.5 inches that flips out from here. And on the other side here, you have 3 different tools that pop out, one of which is an extension bit driver, 2.5 inches in total length, and it does come with a 2-sided bit with Phillips and flathead on the other side. You also get a surprisingly sharp saw included, as well as an awl. That's about it for the main tools, but there is actually one other little feature here on the end that I thought was really impressive. On the back here, you have a little 3-in-1 tool that I really like. When it's closed up, this works as a hammer of sorts. You can flip it open though, and you have a bottle opener and a pry bar built in. So it's just a little tiny pry bar, so it's not going to give you crazy amount of leverage like a full-size big pry bar, but definitely more than enough for most situations, especially considering the absolutely tiny form factor here. You also have a really nice pocket clip on here, which is a nice touch. If the tool set seems useful for you, I think it's a no-brainer. Build quality is really good. It's only 40 bucks. It is absolutely tiny. I think it looks nice. All in all, really solid multi-tool. Got a new flashlight up next. This is the Thrunite Ti Pro. Options are generally pretty limited in this, under $30 range for flashlights. I'm definitely partial to the Olight i3T. I think that's a great little cheap flashlight for under 20 bucks, but I wanted to see what else was out there. I stumbled upon this one from Thrunite, and it's about the same size as the Olight i3T, but gets up to 1,000 lumens, so significantly brighter. It's about 3 inches in total length. It weighs 45 grams, so less than 2 ounces. Like I said, you get up to 1,012 for peak lumens on this for the brightness, which is just crazy for something so tiny. It uses a standard AA or 14500 battery size. It comes with one that is USB-C rechargeable, which is really cool at such a low price point. I didn't see anything about dust resistance, but it is IPX8 waterproof rated, so it can be submerged up to 2 meters, which is really great. Operation is kind of where it falls apart a bit for me, but that's mostly a personal preference type of thing. It is a twist lock type of operation. So you twist it to turn it on and you twist it to adjust the brightness. I definitely prefer like a physical switch design compared to the twisting. It's not a huge deal, but definitely worth mentioning. For $19 though, for 1,000 lumens, there's not a lot of room for complaints. One other thing I thought was kind of weird, it's called the Ti Pro, but it's made out of aluminum. I assumed it might be titanium with the naming, even though it didn't really make sense for this price point, but thought it was a funny anecdote to mention. The base isn't magnetic like a lot of flashlights. I always love a magnetic base. I know, again, that's a personal preference sort of thing. You have a pocket clip on here, which is a really nice touch. Overall, though, under $20 for this. If you're looking for just the most amount of brightness per dollar, you're probably not going to find anything better. Last up, I've got my favorite water bottle right now. This is the LARQ bottle Swig top. Not a budget water bottle by any means, but it still fits in the under $50 rule, and it's been my favorite since it came out last year. Comes in 2 different sizes, 25 and 34 ounces. This is the bigger 34 ounce one. They're $40 and $50 respectively. It is a double-walled insulated bottle. Insulation's worked really well. They claim 24 hours to keep stuff cold. I can definitely attest to that. I think it's even held up longer for me if I put enough ice in. But the main reason I've been liking this, aside from the design, I think LARQ bottles just look excellent. I do really love this Swig top bottle. It's nice to be able to take big, controlled gulps out of this without having to unscrew the entire top of the water bottle. It's also completely leak proof, which is a huge plus and surprisingly difficult with so many water bottle companies. Why can't you get that right? It's like the one thing you're supposed to do. But I just really love this cap design for drinking. I also love that it has a built-in handle. I always like to have a handle or a carabiner or something to carry around the bigger water bottles. It's just more pleasant and a little bit easier if you're carrying multiple things, coming back from the car with a bunch of groceries or something like that. Walking around town, it's just a lot nicer to be able to carry it this way. You do also have the option with this for a filter straw attachment to attach to the inside of the bottle. If your water's kind of gross and you want to filter it out, make it taste better. I go on and off of that because the Portland water here is generally pretty good, but that's something I always travel with if I'm going to an area with really nasty water. Like Las Vegas, when I was there last year, oh my gosh, your water is awful. I feel so bad for you. We're so spoiled up here in Portland with our glacier runoff. But if you're looking for a really good quality bottle, this is a great option. It's at the top of the price range for both water bottles and this list, but I just thought it would be a good place to mention it. If you're looking to save some money, classic Nalgene is always a good way to go. If you want something cheap, you're not going to get the insulation or the nice top, but still a very effective and durable water bottle. That's going to wrap it up for this list, though. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear if you have any budget recommendations for everyone. Put it down below in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, though, and I'll talk to you in the next one.